Hi guys, I hope you're well and I hope you're excited to talk with me a little about sleep. Do you know the situation when you're out with friends, you're having a great time, it's a fun night, you just quickly check your watch but realize how late it already is. It's way past your bedtime, yet sleeping is the last thing you feel like doing. You don't want the night to end, you don't want the fun to stop, so you decide to skip your sleep and just catch up on the hours you missed of sleeping a little later. Or the times when you're about to go to bed, you're reading something, watching something, but it's so interesting that you want to know what happens next. You don't want to go to sleep yet, so you decide to delay your sleeping by 10 minutes, by another 30 minutes, that becomes an hour, a couple of hours, until you find yourself in the middle of the night. You haven't slept yet, but you know how the story ends, which is more important than getting some sleep, of course. Plus, you can rely on the few hours you have left to sleep until you need to wake up again, and you're gonna catch up on the missed sleep a little later. Sometimes sleep can seem like a massive waste of time. There's plenty of things I can think of that you can probably think of to rather do than spend the time sleeping doing nothing than lying in bed. But is sleep really a waste of time, and are we really doing nothing than just lying there in our bed? That's what I want to explore with you. I want to look at sleep. Now, sleep is such a broad topic. There's many aspects to sleep, starting with the quality of sleep, what impacts the quality, sleep disorders, the function of sleep, the physiology of sleep. There's so many components, how sleep changes with age, etc. If there's anything that you're particularly interested in, let me know and I can cover it again, because for now I just want to give you a brief introduction into sleep, look a bit into the physiology, and most importantly, I want to focus on the effect it has when we're sleep deprived. You probably know, no matter how hard you try to stay awake, no matter how hard you try and force yourself to resist the tiredness, the urge to sleep, at some point you're just gonna have to give in and you're gonna fall asleep. This shows you that your body has an innate drive to sleep. Sleep represents an essential body function, which means it must be very important for us. This inbuilt mechanism or drive for sleep is part of our circadian rhythm. We have a biological clock, the circadian clock or circadian rhythm, that's telling our body when to sleep and when to be awake. Now, the seat of this circadian clock is inside our brain in a part that's called the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus regulates two hormones. One is melatonin, the other is cortisol. Melatonin essentially is a hormone that makes you feel tired because it slows down all your body functions, including your heart rate, your metabolism, your energy levels, also your body temperature. And on the other hand, cortisol is the opposite hormone because it makes you feel alert and awake. By sending out these two types of hormones, our body can regulate our sleep and wake cycle. Quite interestingly, this cycle is about 24 hours long, which is just the exact amount of hours that are in a day. Our cycle does not only align with the total amount of hours in a day, it also aligns with night and daytime in the way that our eyes send a signal to the brain when it's dark outside. And this signal tells the brain that it's now bedtime, time to get ready to go to sleep, which starts the process of sending out melatonin and getting our body ready to go to sleep. So you see that our body really has this drive to sleep. Sleep is really important apparently, but why is it so important? What happens when we're sleeping? From a neurological point of view, researchers can investigate this by recording brain activity, specifically brain waves. These brainwave recordings have shown that we actually have two different types of sleep according to different brain waves. The first type is slow wave sleep, and the second type is rapid eye movement sleep, short REM. Both types are quite distinct from each other, not only because they show different brain waves, but also because different areas of the brain are activated during these two types. Also, there's a different brain chemistry present in the brain during both types or for both types of sleep. So different neurotransmitters being sent, being present in the brain for both types of sleep. Whereas slow wave sleep is essentially the phase when you are in deep sleeping mode and it's hard to wake you up. REM sleep is the time when you're dreaming and also the stage when you're gonna wake up. These two stages or types of sleep also go in a cycle during the night, so you move from slow wave sleep into REM sleep, back to slow wave sleep, back to REM sleep. Now this is roughly what happens in the brain. This shows you that the brain is quite active when we're sleeping, yet the brain is also active when we are awake. So what's the difference in brain activity between being asleep and being awake? What difference does it make if we're not sleeping? We could just be awake, our brain is active as well. Why do we need to sleep? The best way to explore this is by looking at sleep deprivation, the effect it has on us when we are sleep deprived. You also will be aware of what happens to you when you are sleep deprived. One night of not a good night's sleep. So if you just had one night of sleep deprivation, you can already feel the impact it has on you, especially your cognitive ability. You feel less concentrated and you're not performing as well as you usually are. A study has actually found that when we are deprived for 24 hours, deprived of sleep for 24 hours, we are on the same level of cognitive ability as when we had alcohol, specifically 10 per mil, which is already twice as much as the legal limit for driving. This is crazy that sleep impacts us so greatly that our cognitive ability is on the same level as having had alcohol. So sleep also is important and impacts when we're deprived from it in several ways. So it's not just your cognitive ability, it's also your emotions, because you might have noticed that when you're sleep deprived, you're more moody and you're less stable with your emotions. Also, it impacts on our health, especially when we have a chronic sleep deprivation. Then it's more likely for us to get sick, feel unwell. And this is all related to sleep because sleep impacts on all of these things. I'm going to talk about these components, so cognitive abilities, emotion, and physical health or health. I'm going to cover them in a bit more detail in the following videos, part 2, part 3, and part 4 to this one, because I can give you a bit more insight into the brain, what really happens when we're sleeping and when we're sleep deprived in relation to these three components. However, one last thing I want to point out, I want to share with you, is about the notion that you might think it's okay to skip sleep or have a reduced amount of hours of sleep is still better than having no sleep at all. This is kind of true, because on a short-term basis, obviously it's better if you get at least some sleep rather than no sleep. However, on a long-term basis, there are some misconceptions there. Because a study has shown that if you only spend 4 hours sleeping over a period of 2 weeks, your cognitive ability, your performance is just as much impacted as it would be with 3 nights going without sleep. So a 3 nights total sleep deprivation has the same impact as chronic sleep deprivation over a period of a couple of weeks. So chronic sleep deprivation is just as harmful really as having no sleep at all. This is super relevant, especially if you're someone who has a busy social life, a busy working life, and it's hard for you to take care of your sleep, to get all these hours of sleep in. And I want you to just be aware how important sleep is for you, and that it's so important for you to try and take care of your sleep, that you get enough sleep, because it will really impact on you. It will have a great impact. Now, if you're interested in hearing more about the specific impacts, the specific physiology behind it, then check out the other parts to this video. And if not, then just make sure that you're getting 8 hours of sleep per night, because that's the recommended amount of hours an adult should get. So try to get these in, because your sleep is so important for your body.